Hi, I'm Lisa Wieben of Encompass Equestrian, and today I'd like to share with you the somatic exercise called the Sidebend, which helps to address trauma in the body. So before I do that, if you haven't already done so, go to my YouTube channel, Encompass Equestrian, and look at the exercise called Arch and Flatten. So the Arch and Flatten is like our foundation exercise, which addresses the front and back of the body and prepares you for the exercise we'll be doing today. So trauma in the body usually shows up due to an injury. So for example, if you've injured your foot or your leg and you've been walking with a limp for a while, there will be a compensation that happens to the other side. So one side of the body gets longer and the other side of the body gets shorter. Now, if we walk in this way long enough, the brain's going to start to recognize that pattern and store that pattern as a habit. So this is what we call sensory motor amnesia, because once it's gone down into our habit brain, then we no longer have conscious access to that pattern, which means that even though we've healed from that injury, we feel like we're walking straight and level again. But what's actually happened is there's still a tightness in those muscles, which can bring that hip up higher than the other hip. And we don't even realize that's there because we don't go around checking our hips all the time. But you're going to see this show up in your riding. So for example, with that hip that's a little bit higher, you might feel your saddle slipping off to one side. And in the trauma pattern, we might also get a little bit of a twist to our body. So as you're going around the ring, your one side might be a little bit more collapsed than the other side, which is going to make turning one direction easier than the other direction because our body wants to go in that direction. So the more we ride our horse is going to help compensate for our pattern as well. And we'll be creating a pattern in our horse. So if we're constantly slipping off to that side, our horse has to pick us up and carry us more on that side. So we're going to be creating an imbalance in their body as well. So we want to be able to release these muscles, get our length back in our body evenly on both sides. So the best exercise that we can do to help this along is the side bend. So let's go down to the floor and I'll show you how to do the side bend. Okay, so we're down on the floor. And as you can see, I've stacked my legs so that my knees are 90 degrees out from my hips and my feet are directly below my knees. So it's almost like you're sitting in a hard back chair. So you can rest your head on your arm, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And right now, I'm just going to have you put your hand in your hip area. So the first part of this movement will be lifting the foot up towards the ceiling, keeping our knees glued together. So I'll do this on an exhale. So as I exhale, I'm lifting the foot up and I can feel that contraction right in my hip area. And then I'll slowly lower that down. And as I lower down, I can feel that getting longer. So we'll do that one more time. So I inhale first. And then as I exhale, loading the foot up. And you can come as far as you can, just in your comfortable range. So you might be able to rotate a lot, or you might rotate very little. And then as you lower the foot down, notice if there's any shakiness on the way down. So that shakiness is releasing that sensory motor amnesia. So it's like we're bringing awareness back to those muscles. So when you feel the shakiness, you want to slow it down even more. And maybe on the next one, don't come up quite as high. And then very slowly lower that down. Okay, so now that we've brought our awareness to the hip area by lifting the foot, on this next one, on an exhale, we'll lift our upper body up. So it's almost as if you're taking your armpit down towards your hip. So as I exhale, I'm just bringing my rib cage down. And then as I inhale, slowly lower back down. And let everything melt. Now I like to bring a lot of awareness to my rib cage with my breath. So before I go into putting the two parts of this movement together, let's bring our awareness right into the ribs. So as you inhale, can you push your ribs up towards the ceiling? And if your ribs aren't moving a lot, it's quite likely there's a lot of muscle tension in between those ribs, which isn't allowing the expansion. So again, this will be a really good exercise to bring awareness to this area. So take your hand over your head, and it's almost like you're making a basket for your head. So you're just supporting your head with your hand. And as we exhale this time, we'll put both pieces together. So you'll be coming up into the full movement and then slowly lowering back down. So you can see there's a lot of contraction in the center of the body. And then as we lower down, we're lengthening those muscles back out. So take an inhale and think about sending your ribs up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, squeeze the air out. So you can imagine your ribs are like an accordion. So you're bringing the air in on the inhale and expanding and lengthening. And then as we exhale, you're contracting and squeezing the air out. And then we're slowly lowering down. And the slower you make the movement, the more awareness you'll bring back to the brain. So we want that conscious awareness. So as we contract into these on the lift up, you're bringing conscious awareness to that contraction. And then you're also bringing conscious awareness to the release. So you start to train your brain how to bring length and relaxation back to these muscles. So if you've noticed, I've put myself right against my wall. It's like I said before, quite often there'll be a twist in your body. So if I do this away from the wall, as I come up, I might get my elbow back behind me rather than in alignment with my hip. So you can either use the front of your couch or a wall just to make sure you're not rotating back as you lift up. So let's do one more time on this side. Think inhale to bring your ribs up towards the ceiling, expanding the rib cage. And then as we exhale, slowly lifting up, feeling the contraction in the ribs, and then very slowly melting back down to the floor. Think about as you're melting, your arm is moving away from your hip, and you're bringing length back into the body. Now I'm going to do one more because I always like to finish with a little bit more of a lengthen. So inhale again. Exhale. Bring your armpit to your hip and your hip to your armpit. And this time as we release, you can let your arm lengthen away and your top leg lengthen down, and just let them set down on the floor and let everything melt. So we just brought a little bit more length into that side of the body. Now, of course, you're going to do this on both sides, so you can take a moment and roll over to the other side, work your other side, and see how that feels for you. So one thing I'd like to point out is when you're doing this exercise, if you know you have one side that's tighter, do that side first, because by bringing awareness to that tight side and lengthening those muscles out, it's going to be easier for you when you go to your other side. So have fun with this one and let me know how it feels. Thank you.